Just a reminder before today's programme that the previous instalment of AMTV Radio is available for you to listen to, with our special guest, Council of Geeks. And now, here on AMTV, time for the concluding episode of Season 1 of our little podcast, featuring our special guest, Davies. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of AMTV Radio. This is the podcast where I'm joined by a very special guest each time, and we talk about, well, quite frankly, whatever we want to talk about. And my special guest this time is a YouTuber known as Davies, or as I know him here, as Sam. How you doing, Sam?
Hello. Wow, that's a podcast voice. That's a...
Oh, stop it.
That's a voice for radio. How do I get me one of them?
Oh, God. I always joke with people when people say stuff like that, training as an actor. I'm like, oh, yeah, it cost me 30 grand to say that intro. So, you know, that's 30 grand down the drain. But, no, I just enjoy doing voices, I guess.
Brilliant. I think that's the nicest compliment you can pay someone, is complimenting their voice.
Well, I like you. I was gonna bring this up. May as well bring it up now. Like your voice on your videos, I love it because like it's not just like, because I don't know if you script your videos at all, but even if you didn't, like it just sounds very like it's engaging and intriguing. Like in some things you say, there's like, you know, an air of mystery about the topic you're talking about, which makes
I am a coy little boy.
Hashtag coy boy, but yeah, I like it.
Absolutely.
Nah, so, but yeah, nice to have you on the show. Thank you for agreeing to come on. And I'm quite new to your channel. I only first came across it a few months ago, sort of during the height of the lockdown of everything going on in the world. I think it's fair to say we were all watching a lot more YouTube. But
yes. Wonder why.
Yeah, wonder why. But I came across one of your broke canon videos, which we'll talk more about as we go on. And I love the concept, man. Like really, I'm all about like not just Doctor Who, just like I'm a big lover of like history or nostalgia and any like oddities, like the stuff you discuss on the canon. Like I love that sort of stuff and how in depth you go. So I guess for anyone who's listening who might not be as familiar with your channel as I am, do you just want to maybe sort of summarize what you do, the kind of work you like to create?
Okay. I'm a YouTuber. I'm one of the old boys, not in age, as in I've been here since the beginning of the site.
Oh, we're talking 2005, 2006?
Yeah, 2005.
Ooh,
big time. Done a lot of different things. And I've found myself... I've always been ping-ponging out of Doctor Who in a way. My love's always been there, but in how actually engaged I am fandom-wise, I found myself in 2017, out of nowhere, being like, okay, yeah, video series. I'm going to do a retrospective, in-depth video on every single Doctor and their tenure. And... I just wrapped that up in lockdown with old Hartnell.
You did? I love that as well, that you went backwards rather than like the standard
massively.
Going forward. Well, it's something different, isn't it? Because I think we're all used to and I'm not bashing anyone, like there are some great Who retrospectives out there, but I just like that yours was different, that you went backwards. I was like, yeah, I want to go backwards and stuff.
Have you tried the same thing, but in reverse? That's all I really brought to the table. It's really a lot of weird, contrarian hot takes and grasping at straws in terms of characterization. Those are my focuses. But there's a lot to grapple with. That's so fun. And it sent me on a treasure hunt of filling in all the gaps of my childhood classic series library. So
absolutely.
I was watching the Nightmare of Edens and the Infernos.
Oh, yes.
And I had never seen... Well, actually, name a popular story other than Genesis. I probably haven't seen the big ones.
I love how people say other than Genesis. That's like the de facto like classic story.
Like, if you name 3 really big ones, I'm telling you, I didn't watch An Unearthly Child.
Ooh.
I wanted that to be the last. I wanted that to be the last one of my journey. So I really am talking about the Doctor character in reverse for me as well, which is very strange and very silly.
No, I like that though, like, because obviously, like, when I think you're introduced to classic Who, like, I mean, my first ever experience was with the revival, you know, the Eccleston stuff, and then by the end of that, when he turned into David Tennant, you know, little 9-year-old me was like, wait, who's this guy? And then my dad, who obviously watched the show like back in the day, said, oh yeah, this has happened several times, and I was like, whatever do you mean? And then he was,
I'm not having this. That was me as a 10-year-old. No way.
But that sounds cool though, going backwards. I mean, granted, when I started in 2005, there was, you know, classic Who wasn't as accessible to watch as it is now. I think, you know, you had the DVDs and stuff, but I mean,
if you had a box
VHS.
Set, if you had a VHS or a box set, you hung on to that. Like, I'm looking at my Trial of a Time Lord DVD set. There's not one good story on that, but I love it dearly.
Oh, I love Mind Warp myself. Is that not that segment not a favourite of yours?
Man, I don't. Every single chat I've had with a Whovian this week has somehow went back to Mind Warp. Am I bringing it up?
It's all about Mind Warp.
Is that a constant? Is everyone just thinking about Seal? Maybe. Yeah, they're all watchable. I like them a lot. I'm going to be editing with it soon. I do also nice. do anime mashups, which are terrible, but they're really good for practicing editing. I've taught myself the Adobe Suite just doing these little mashups.
So you're one of few.
Oh, it's not fun. And I've got to find the emotional core of Trial of a Time Lord. That's my task this week, and I don't know if I'm up to it. Like, I turned Series 4, I turned The Stolen Earth into an Attack on Titan war epic.
I like it.
So melodramatic. I'm doing one with the Pons, you know, like Series 7A, where I'm just going to make it like some chill hangout sort of song.
Mm-hmm. Let's face it, the emotional heart of Trial of a Time Lord is the fact that what's his name? Kiev, the other mentor that's not Sil, just has a poorly head. That's the emotional heart of Trial of a... Because I think every scene he's in, he's literally going, my head hurts. And
someone get this guy's treatment, damn.
Just shave Perry's head already, do you know what I mean? Like, we don't need 3 episodes. I will give you that. Like, there are moments of Mind Warp where... Because I rewatched it when the Blu-ray set came out. And I was like, I still love it. You know, I love the atmosphere, the music and whatnot. But... this could have even been like, you know, 2 episodes. You know what I mean? It didn't need to be 4. It was kind of a bit scooched out over 4, in my opinion. But you know,
I hope the mentor just gets his treatment. I hope it goes well for him, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, you know, because obviously in that moment, you know, Ikanos comes in and he does his slow motion scream and everything goes white and stuff. And I know the Time Lord's like, yeah, we took care of that, we sorted that out. But they never say, like, because obviously Kiev is now in Perry's body. Like, did they just reverse that? Is Kiev dead? Do you know what I mean? Did they ever explain that? Or?
Yeah, here's the thing with the broke canon. God, it's more a burden, really. Is that I do know the answer to that, but I really just don't even want to. I don't want to enter it into your life. I could give you the long answer or the short answer, and both are miserable. So just trust me when I say it's part of Big Finish's ongoing quest to make sure that every companion who has died in the classic series actually did not die and had a very happy ending. So, that's fun.
Yeah, it's I mean, props to Big Finish. Like, I think, as I've discussed with you on Twitter prior to doing this, like, I'm only just starting to really, I guess, explore the range. Like, I'd heard a few things before. Like, I'd listened to Jubilee and I'd listened to the very first one, which I had on CD. But it was actually your video that alerted me that the first 50 main entries are on Spotify, where you can listen to them for free.
Imagine my joy the day I find that.
Man,
that one fact is probably the reason I went hard back into Doctor Who. Massively,
really?
Because I definitely bought a lot of the Big Finishes as a kid, but this 10-year-old for his birthday asking for Zagreus, it's not going to end well. That's a bad combination. So I never really got far.
I can't wait to enter into Zagreus. I know you mentioned in your video, and actually to me directly on Twitter, of all the best to listen to the Charlie arc and get through that, but just how it's been like built up both by like yourself, and I've read, you know, articles and stuff. Like, I'm just really curious. Like, I just want to listen to Zagreus.
It's one of the few stories that is not over mythologized in terms of fan reaction. It is that mental. I'd like to know, in your head, what is Zagreus? Like, you look at that cover and the hype. What do you think that story is? Tell me.
A clusterfuck. That's what.
Like, specifically. What do you think the deal is?
Is There's the greatest cover the one where it's McGann at the top and then McCoy, Davison, and Baker like underneath him, picture-wise?
Yeah, doing the dimensions and time thing, bobbing heads.
Oh yes, bobbing heads. Was it pickled in time like gherkins in a jar? Something like that.
It's a great line. It's a great line.
It's a great line. I mean, I look at it, and I remember actually seeing it when it, I think, first came out. I saw it, the page of the Doctor Who magazine and stuff. And as I did with any multi-Doctor story as a kid, I don't know where this thing came from. Before I saw any multi-Doctor story, I instantly assumed if there was a multi-Doctor story, it had to have either Daleks or Cybermen in it. Like, that's just a given.
And Titan Comics and Big Finish will have you believe that. So it's not, that's not off. That's not off.
It's not far from the truth. But yeah, I don't know. It just, I think when I read it, however old I was, I didn't even get the concept of, like, the blurb it was trying to say. Yes. And I mean, I didn't really get the Big Finish audios as a kid because, like, well, I didn't have, as you do, a kid, you don't have much disposable income. And to be honest, mate, back in the day, I was hard into collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So, like,
that's been, whoa, huh? That's been my week.
I have noticed on Twitter you've pointed out some Yu-Gi-Oh things.
I won't stop talking about those Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Mate. I feel like sometimes I got it all right as a kid, and I've just been like pirouetting back into everything I liked when I was a kid over and over again. It's just going to be this until I die. I'll dig up a Tamagotchi tomorrow.
Oh god, I was never allowed a Tamagotchi. I think I did ask for one, but it was probably on the grounds that I'd never come away from it, and that was, in hindsight, that was probably correct.
That was the design, yeah.
No, but Yu-Gi-Oh, I was into that, like, I'd say from, like, 2004 to 2008, like, the bulk of my pocket money / general interests was about Yu-Gi-Oh, and the annoying thing was, there'd be, like, various people at school who'd, like, try and set up tournaments at break time and stuff, but no one knew how to play the fucking game properly. Whereas I'd read the rule book, I'd watched the show, even though the show is quite broken with its rules, like hideously broken. But I'd studied the rules and I was like, yep, I know how to play this. But no one ever knew how to fucking... And like when you play with someone who clearly doesn't know the rules, and you're like going, right, so if I attack your monster, that means this happens in X, Y, Z, and they go, no, it doesn't mean that. And you're like, even okay. No. You're like, one, shut the fuck up. Like, you haven't read the rule book. But yeah, I think that's why I fell out of it in the end, just because, like, I had all these cards, and aside from, like, making odd decks myself and playing with my brother, who thankfully, like, learned how to play properly as well. But aside from that, it was like... Do you know what I mean? I had no one to play with, and I wasn't really doing the tournaments, so I just sort of fell out of it, I guess.
Exact same. From the sounds of it sounds like my junior school could wreck your junior school.
Oh, if you all play properly, you probably could. So.
How about this? We used to play on the playground as 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, with cards bought with our pocket money or presents from parents, and we played with an auntie. So if you lost... You're the kid, the shit-nosed kid who took it, he is going to be taking your best card. We were lethal. Shit. I think back at how awful that is.
That's high stakes for, like, junior school, like losing your most valuable card. Do you know what I'd probably do? I'd know what my most valuable card was, say like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, like first edition or something. But I'd probably never tell other kids at school I had it. Do you know what I mean? I'd have like another best card that could like be lost. I'd never in a million years wager like that. I don't know. But did you lose any best cards in your time?
They've mysteriously gone. A number of them. I have dug them up, and there's some old favourites missing, but that could be anything.
I do remember my worst trade. My worst trade. I had... Do you remember there was that PS2 game, Duelist of the Roses? Which was a really, like, fucking weird game when you think about it. Like, let's do the War of the Roses, but Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's like, right, yes,
I've never put two and two together and thought, oh, hang on. That's oddly enough strange. That's almost as strange as situating a children's trading card inside of Egypt. That's a good one, Sam. Exactly. Like ancient evil Egypt with nightmare verses. That's almost pretty much bizarre.
But like that game came out, and the 3 cards with that were the 3 Magnet Warriors, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma.
Throwback.
I know, and I think back then, at that time, this was like Christmas 2004 or early 2005, at that time, that was the only way in the UK you could get those cards, by getting that game. But, when you're a stupid, like, 9-year-old kid like I was, they were just like, 3 cards, like no effects,
Trade
pretty
it for
standard
Blue
attack
Eyes.
point. Well, it wasn't Blue Eyes.
Trade it for him.
I traded the 3 of them for a Black Skull Dragon, which
That's
at the
not
time,
a bad trade.
Well, it's not a bad trade, but then you look back in hindsight, like the two fusion monsters, because isn't it Red Eyes and Summon Skull? Like, I'd argue they're better on their own on the field together than a Black Skull Dragon. And
Also,
I always look back and I'm like, why did like 9-year-old me? Because it was with an older kid as well. Because we used to have like a place in our town where they were doing like friendly Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments. No antis or anything like that. And he was an older guy, and he definitely was exploiting a child in that sense. He saw those 3 Magnet Warriors. He was like, yeah, this dumb little kid will take a Red Eye Summon Skull crossbreed thing. Like, yeah, I'll exploit, and it worked to his credit.
Find him, look him up and find him. He's still got them. I know he does. You could have made bank. You could have made serious bank there, I feel.
Like, I know they've been re-released and stuff, but like those versions, because I think they were like secret wear ones, with like the foil print and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, if it came out of a PS2 game, I reckon that would. Yeah, I don't want to break the bad news to you. That sounds pricey.
Don't worry, mate. I've had the bad news break in my own head for several years now, but I actually got rid of all my cards. Like, last year, there was a local car boot sale, and I sort of took them on a whim, thinking no one's gonna, pick these, like, random, because I had, like, folders and tins. I had a lot of it. And 2 people actually took it all. The first one was a guy in his early 20s who was like, oh, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And he was like, oh, can I buy 4 tins? And his girlfriend shot him a look of like, are you fucking serious? Like, she couldn't believe it. And then the other was an Italian guy who, he asked me what they were. I tried my very best to explain what they were. And he was like, oh, I'll buy it all. Like, all in my fault. He gave me 50 quid.
Who is this man?
Well, quite. I said, oh, is it for you? He went, no, it's for my children. Something for them to do. And I was like, these kids are going to, like, wreck those cards within, like, 6 months. But they were all, I didn't have any attachment to them anymore. Do you know what I mean? I kept my own, like, personal deck that I used a lot. So I've still got that. Just in case anyone wants to throw down in the street. Do you know what I mean?
Shadow games. Shadow games are going to come to my doorstep one day, and I'm ready.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I always like playing a burn deck. I don't know about you, like chipping away at your opponents. I know people think that kind of deck's really scummy, but I don't give a shit.
Everything I do are gimmicks. That's the one thing. In any game I do, I am not cheesing it, but I refuse to play the game properly. Even in, I was playing Overwatch earlier. I'm not shooting people. I'm hanging out round the spawn point, distracting people away from the actual goal. It's way more fun. But that is also, like you said, probably me picking on kids. But so less of that. It's such a fun game, Yu-Gi-Oh, because it's 4D chess with a little bit of role playing in there. But I feel like over the years, because I'm not up to date, I feel like it's very much gone from long-term strategy planning to now it's more like a fighting game. Games will rarely last more than 2 turns. You're racking up combos. It's fast-paced, but also very slow.
It's so crazy. Like, I think another reason what took me out of it was when they kept adding like different types of cards, like synchros and then XYZs and all that shit. And I was like, I ain't got time for this. But then
you stop caring at a point, definitely.
Yeah, and also like with the shows, like I love the original series. I've got it all on DVD. Like I love it to pieces. I don't care like how corny the like US dub is or whatever. Like
that is part of the appeal. That's why I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I actually watched all of GX as well, and I didn't mind GX for the most part, personally.
I've heard very good things, but I've got too many things on my plate, TV-wise, to even consider GX.
Don't worry, mate. The amount of shows like people, when people just recommend you things on a whim and you add it to like a list, and I look at this list and I'm like, I'm never gonna get through this.
I feel like I'm watching Curse of Fenric and Megalos, and they don't know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, Megalos. Oof.
Oh yeah. I rewatched that on the season 18 Blu-ray, and in my head, because like when you go back through the classic stuff, at least for me, like if I'm rewatching them, I'm like, yeah, well this might be better than I remembered. And Megalos, I'm like, no.
How crazy would it make people? I don't know what the fan reception on Megalos is. If I remade my Tom Baker retrospective and I put Megalos in the top 5 or the bottom 5, would I get people coming at me Would I get people called Keith slamming my millennial taste like you?
Oh, I think it depends because, like, are you aware of the YouTuber Who Chaser?
Yes,
Yes, he was.
Oh man, sorry. Quick tangent. The reason why I'm at my sleepiest, I might be your sleepiest guest, in fact, because I was up late all night listening to the previous podcasts.
Oh, bless you, man.
That's so good. I love it. Who Chaser seems lovely.
Man. He's a great guy, and well, you probably heard then his favorite like classic season is season 18 with Meglos in it, and I think he was the first person first Whovian I chatted with who like actively said that was their like favorite it was either favorite Tom Baker season or like favorite classic season, but he highly rates it. And I mean, the thing about like Meglos being like one of the lowest rated or whatever, oddly enough, I think because on my channel I'm doing a series at the minute going through the history of Doctor Who ratings, which I mean that's always been like a big niche for me. I love like numbers and statistics and things like that, so just analyzing like how well the show did, how low it did, what it all means. And I'm quite excited to get to that season because Meglos is actually the Fourth Doctor's lowest rated story on average in terms of viewership. And I don't know if you agree, but I feel, you know, those stories that get like quote unquote low viewing figures, like, you know, the Battlefields and the Meglosses by extension. And I think sometimes people just see that low viewing figure and automatically assume it's a bad story because of that. Do you know what I mean?
I've got opinions on this. Would you like to hear
Oh, go
them?
ahead. Yes, of course. Go ahead.
I've got a very, very strong inclination that we are fans, like we're like third generation fans, and this show has been over mythologized to such a degree that I've had to question during that big rewatch that I did, which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. Okay, I don't know why the hell I was talking about Meglos. I have no strong opinions on Meglos. Mate, I'm so excited for this podcast and I end up talking about Meglos. But take Meglos, take Delta and the Bannermen. These stories which are so amorphous to a rating, they're fine pieces of television, but you wouldn't see any other TV show or any other decade ever try this kind of gonzo material. And like, I get called a contrarian sometimes on my channel because I rated Robots of Death as one of my least favorites of the Baker era, stuff like that. Just I didn't get it. I didn't get much out of it. But it's examples like that where I think, was this just one of the early released ones? Has it just built up a reputation as one of the popular ones? Is it Chinese Whispers? Because then I look at Delta and the Bannermen and I think if you actively dislike Delta and the Bannermen, what are you doing watching classic Who? But you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, Ken Dodd on his own.
It's mental. It is so not good per se, but you'd be hard inclined to hate it. And if you're taking it so seriously where you think you can concrete separate the great ones and the terrible ones, I don't know, I think I've got news for you. It's like, they're all very strange, disconnected parts of British media which we've displaced them entirely and put new rules on them. But I don't know.
It is odd because, like you say, like with Delta, and in fact you could say the vast majority, if not all of the McCoy era, like you say, when people just look at ratings, if you're just going off that, it's some of the worst the show's ever had. Does that mean the McCoy era, by comparison, is bad as a whole? In my opinion, no. I think some of the best stories, not just of classic Who, but in my opinion of all Who, come from that McCoy era. Like, I know it's bashed around a lot. I love the Happiness Patrol. Yep. I absolutely adore the Happiness Patrol. But again, I nearly fell victim as a kid. Like, you know, when you're first learning about classic Who, and the only clip on the Doctor Who website is like of the Candyman, and yes, he looks a bit, you know, daft and strange or whatever. And people are like, "Oh, yeah, this was a daft episode, wasn't it? This is where they got Bertie Bassett as a mon." Do you know what I mean? And as
it's
a kid,
all displaced. It's all out of whack, and we're absorbing 80s fans' opinions probably without realizing it.
Yeah, because I'm sure when it broadcast in '88, there were probably some fans who saw the Candyman and thought, "Oh my god!" Like compared to whatever they'd had before, they maybe were like, "Oh, this is a downward spiral." But I watched it again during the lockdown, and as a story, like some of its moods, its tones, its messages, it's brilliant. It really is brilliant. So
many McCoy stories, especially, are getting reappraisals, and to me, can fandom just join and just reappraise everything? That's my goal. That's my objective with this, really. Like, I do it's ironic because I actually do separate my least favourite stories from my most favourite stories, but I never really found out what my criteria was. And that was the big takeaway I took. What's the web planet to a modern day viewer? You know, because you can't rate it in terms of modern television. What is the web planet? It's mania. I
think my consensus on the web planet, because I talked about it in my rating series, like it's actually the highest rated Hartnell era story. Like, we're talking averages of 12 and 13 million.
At the time, they loved it, and they never saw anything like it ever again because nothing ever existed. Yeah.
I think I mentioned, like, you watch it now and, like, people might think it's a bit clunky and maybe it's like 2 or 3 episodes too long.
I didn't finish it.
Well, there you go, you see. So, but I think it's like you say, put yourself back in someone who watched it in 1965, and you'd probably be hooked because you're like, what is this strange Vaseline smeared camera planet with giant ants and butterfly? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's that you have to watch it with that sense of. Yeah. What if I was watching this back in the 60s? Because I've shown friends Classic Who, people who only know the modern stuff, and I'm not forcing it upon them, but I'm like, just so you're aware, there's a lot of stuff that came before. Let's try and watch some of it, and I try and pick some of the more accessible stuff. Like my ex-partner, I showed her Tomb of the Cybermen because I think that's a great jumping on point, in my opinion, for Classic Who. And she watched all 4 episodes, and she was like, "Yeah, do you know what? That was pretty good." And I was like, "Yes."
I just realised the first one that my partner saw, even we watching the Capaldi years at the time, the first classic one she saw, ironically, was probably Mind Warp. Either that, it was the Vervoids.
A segment of an overall story.
It was the Vervoids, and she liked the coat, which is how I knew. Oh yeah, that's a winner. That's a winner, right?
That's a winner. Absolutely.
Thank you for not disregarding my mostly bad, very strange 80s show. Thank you. It goes a long way.
I mean, if she likes the coat, then that's a huge leap in my opinion. That's part of the battle. But speaking of 6's time, hot take, in my opinion, The Twin Dilemma is not the worst story ever.
Oh no, there's worse.
Absolutely not.
It's up there. I think it's a dangerous. It was a risky episode, but there is worse. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think very much that it's a very dangerous statement to. It's all bold and gutsy what you're trying to do, but when you leave the final, you don't stick the landing, and the final line is, "I'm the Doctor, whether you like it or not," and his face fills the frame. It's like, oh no, that's very alienating.
Yeah, and Colin Baker said that himself, hasn't he, in interviews? Like, that was the impression viewers were stuck with for like 9 months before he came back on the screen. So yeah, I get what you mean. Like,
general
appreciate
viewers,
the risks.
It didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt from general viewers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the story, who cares about the plot? Yeah, it's probably fine. I'll read it as a target novel, and I'll be like, yeah, sure.
The target novel, actually, because I read the start of this year, I was like, I'm finally going to start buying and reading the target novels, because most of them are fairly inexpensive to get your hands on. And I read the Twin Dilemma one, and I was like, this is great.
Warriors of the Deep. Warriors of the Deep is a very good target novel.
Yes, great target novel. Much better than than what we got, quite frankly. But
of course, okay. We don't have to speak about Mr. Warriors of the Deep.
Time and the Rani was another one for me.
Target novel. Must get around.
So much better. Like, all like the nuances they like sort of start going into in the thing, and then they cut them off like as soon as they're mentioned. Like, they're explained so much more. It's just a more in-depth. But I think that's like a lot of the Target ones, isn't it? They're just even more in-depth versions of what we got on the telly because there's no budget restrictions anymore.
Of course, and Douglas, not Mr. Douglas Adams. He's another dude, and Uncle Dick's lovely prose. Doesn't hurt, does it?
Uncle
The Abominable Snowman, The Abominable Snowman, and Marco Polo. I read them as novels, and Curse of Peladon. I read all 3 of those as novels first, and I was like, these are 3. You got 1, 2, and 3. These are the greatest stories from all 3 of these Doctors. How the hell will the TV stuff pick up the pace? And they all do, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I'll have to take benefit of the doubt. I'll have to take your word for it. But in Marco Polo and Abominable Snowman's cases, they'd have to be quite good.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you?
How could they not be, being that bold and gutsy? Like, I've seen telesnaps and I've seen what the plot is doing. It's like, wow, okay.
Well, I suppose we might find out, because, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the supposed news that Evil of the Daleks and the Abominable Snowmen are supposedly the next two animation releases that are going to be coming out.
I was hoping...
Are you a fan of... I was going to say, are you a fan of the animated stuff, or...
We're going through a bit of a rocky relationship at the minute, where I'm a massive animation fan, and more than anything else, maybe even more so than Who. So the few times animation Doctor Who has intersected, I'm all over it. The greatest ones are, The Invasion, the original animation of The Invasion. Yeah. It's expressionistic, stark, jagged gorgeousness. It's so atmospheric. And then the Infinite Quest, which is, not as polished, but it was a great starting point for stuff that never really came. That's how I feel about it.
Isn't it mad that after The Invasion, they waited a whole 7 years before animating another classic story?
Yeah,
I just find that so...
They went under, bless them, and since then they've been slowly declining in quality, in my opinion. But,
was it? I can't remember if it was yourself or someone else tweeted at the time when they released the new...
I do like tweeting.
I know you do. Go and follow... Go and follow Sam on Twitter, guys.
Don't follow me on Twitter. It's a terrible place, especially my one.
I think it was either yourself or someone in the YouTube space when they dropped the new trailer for Fury from the Deep, and they commented on how everything just looks really flat. Apparently,
that's me.
Oh, I thought it was.
There's no staging to it. It's like a comic book maker, and I hate saying that because these are the Doctor Who releases I'm most connected to be honest. It's the biggest disappointment than the TV stuff. It kind of hurts to say.
Yeah, I think the funniest so far has been, when they recently re-released Power of the Daleks, but like they updated the animation. I don't know if you've seen like the little booklet on the inside of the DVD. No. They basically, this is paraphrasing by the way, anyone listening, I'm not quoting directly, but they basically say, yeah, we know we put Summer out in 2016. Yeah, we kind of rushed it. It's a little bit shit, isn't it? Yeah, they literally, they're like, yeah, we wanted to work on it more, but the BBC wanted it for the 50th anniversary of Power of the Daleks, so that's why we put it out. But hey, now we're doing it again, and that'll be £12.99, please.
It's kind of inexcusable when you think about it. But it's. I've gotten a bit more vocal in the last year. I'm talking about a franchise that I love dearly, that can do no wrong at the end of the day. But I'm getting much less, getting more resistant to the fact that the fandom can be taken for a ride. Sometimes I feel like there's some very anti-consumer decisions made. Where
absolutely.
How much can you get away with this very... We're a big demographic. We are deceptively big as a fandom, but we are still a niche. And as a result, we sometimes do take what we can get.
Yeah, I mean, with the Blu-ray sets of the classic series, I remember when they announced that, and at first I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I've spent the best part of like 9-10 years getting them all on DVD, and at that time I didn't even have a Blu-ray player. Like, I didn't have a PS4 or anything, so I was like, no, not doing it. And then I got a PS4, and I was like, all right, season 10 had just come out, John Pertwee. I was like, I'll jump on that. And then I mean, I loved it, don't get me wrong, but I'm sort of thinking now in my head, if they try this shit again, like, I don't know, 4K or anything like that, I'm not going to do it, because I feel now with the content, the extra content on the Blu-ray as well as the DVD stuff, it's like, what more can you possibly give us in bonus features that we don't already have, if that makes sense? Do you know what I mean? So if they're like,
you can only stretch 70s TV so far.
I mean, I do love, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm really thankful, I do love it, but some of the special features, one's not springing to mind, which is annoying, but you know what I mean? Some of those like smaller special features they put on there, which you can tell they just sort of threw on just because it has a vague connection to the story or the season, and they need to fill out the disc sort of thing. It's like, we're really like pushing it now.
It's like what I'm saying. It's all these stories are so over mythologized, just decades of the eye patch story, and you know what I mean? It's that stuff. We've inherited Doctor Who fandom. And I'm very, very strong on that point. I think it's really interesting.
Fair enough. It is. I mean, again, on the interesting side, we'll just talk a bit about it. As I mentioned before, you do a series called Broke Canon, which is looking at all like the...
Yes, I agree. That does exist.
It does exist, and it's very good.
For now.
Dun 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 for now. But for what was your sort of, I guess, inspiration? But like, what made you want to be like, right, I'm gonna talk about oddities in the show now?
It was the Timeless Children.
Everyone's favorite. We like saying that on this show whenever it's mentioned.
Every episode, like it should. We should never let them forget it. But
Absolutely
I have to say, just clarification, I was very much over it by the time that broadcast. I was very drunk before the 10-minute mark. And this was a great decision because I was laughing my ass off.
I bet.
Brilliant. Because it burned up the last of my patience back in Spyfall Part 2. That's the one where I'm on the record, tantrum.
Oh dear.
I was not happy. I was like, oh, well, what's the point then? What's the point? And I do have to... That was the alarm bell. That Series 12 not only was putting egg on my face for defending this era, but it showed its hand to me right there.
Yeah.
And I'm not fussed about the rest. But anyway, it was more so when the criticisms come in and suddenly canon is the word on everyone's mind, I'm just... I've come out of uni with a master's dissertation in fandom studies. That was my final year project.
Oh, nice.
And it very much goes into... I'm not going to bore you. The thing's 23,000 words. It involves, at one point, just dissecting canon as a completely vapid and misused internet term. It's not what... The guy... A priest coined the term talking about the Sherlock Holmes canon. He did that like as a piss take. And we've completely bought into it since then. So we're just finding more overly literal ways to talk about something which isn't literal one bit. How can we turn Doctor Who into a physical historical science? It's not, and you're going to be disappointed if you really take the Timeless Child revelation to heart. That was my takeaway. And the reality is, this has happened before. So many people have tried this before. It doesn't matter. It is just one take of many.
Yeah, I think that was what... I mean, the whole thing with the Timeless Children, I won't dwell on it because I know regular listeners I've talked about it a lot. But
it's dribble. It is dribble. But it is... Yeah, we've over-talked about it before, I'm sure.
Yeah, my view was like, I wasn't angry or upset or anything. I appreciate they took a risk. Did it pay off? Maybe not. But, they tried something different. I'm like, you know what? Fair play. I still had my fun, etc. But, like, the thing is... But what I liked about your series, about Broke Canon, is, like you say, there's numerous points within the, if you like, the canon of the show that is, well, as you say, broke.
They're all examples. They're all examples that, like, it's fine. We don't have to take it seriously. Human nature happened twice to the Doctor. Yeah. So
exactly.
How literal do we want to be? And I know people have their answers, and canon is fun. It is fun. I'm not saying dismiss it outright. I'm just remember that it is amorphous. And we are twisting its usage. So,
and also at the end of the day, like when you get down to the bare bones, like this, it's a TV show. That I'm not saying anyone's opinion's devalued or anything like that. But I've had that argument used on me. Like when I've tried to defend my opinions, and they're going, "Oh, like you're not listening to our opinions on why this show's awful now. It's just a TV show. Why are you taking it?" But then these are the same people. I'm like, you're literally complaining that they're doing something new in a fictional story. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's just
let stories be stories. And I just wish there was a showrunner like the last two who understood that himself. But that's all I've got to say.
Big Finish, after all. They love stories. So.
They absolutely love stories. They do.
Yeah. Stories you'd never even think of telling.
You've got to give it to them. They love the stories that they do. And so do I.
I must admit, some box sets they release, I'm like, do they do... Because one that confused... Again, not knocking Bit Finish, they do great work. But when they announced like the Winston Churchill box set with Ian McNeice, I was like, yeah, it's neat, but why?
They just wanted to hang out with Ian McNeice for a day. That really is it. Same reason PC Andy's in Torchwood, and you know what I mean. And meeting the Eighth Doctor, it's great. It's just a silly little toy box. It's top stuff.
Is there any of the... Because, of course, you said you've gone quite hard on the Big Finish range from time to time. You've dipped in and out. Is there any particular series, whether that's like the main range or a spin-off range, that you would recommend to any listeners who are listening who maybe have never listened to a Big Finish before?
Oh, so many. I've got a video on the topic which presents my
You do,
favourites
yes.
and a bunch of beginner points, but the short version is Davros, the Colin Baker story Davros, fantastic entry point, a masterpiece in its own right, no prerequisite required. God, listen to me. It's like I've done this recommendation 500 times. It's so
Just
good.
a disclaimer, guys, I will put that link to that video either on screen or in the description, because it is a very comprehensive video, if you want to get into Big Finish, because I think you mentioned it as well, I think for some fans who discover Big Finish, just because at this point they've released so much and like so many series and it's intimidating. You know, like where do you you think, oh, start at number 1, The Sirens of Time, but then you're like, oh, but then there's this spin-off.
I hope you're very
and
patient.
That spin-off. Oh Christ, yeah, I know. I mean, I'll listen to the 50 that are on Spotify. Like, I'm going through the Dalek Empire series at the minute, so yeah, I've done the Genocide Machine, which I thought was all right. Going through the Apocalypse element at the minute, but I did actually listen to Spare Parts, which gets a lot of, well, I think, praise. You see it get a lot of praise, don't you, for like being, oh, it's a great Cyberman story, because it's like, for anyone who doesn't know, without spoiling all of it, like, it's basically an attempt at a Cyberman origin story, like one of many that we've had by this point.
Exactly.
But yeah, as an audio form, like, because having trained as an actor, like, it's hard to sometimes separate when I'm watching TV or listening to audio drama. When you have like your actor's head on, like you're analyzing like choices and all that sort of stuff. But as an audio drama, from an acting perspective, I really enjoyed Spare Parts. I thought it was quite stellar, actually. Like,
yeah,
so
it's very popular. It's got a good reputation. There's other ones I'd prefer to it, but that's me, Mr. Contrarian again. It's there's a handful of stories that spark joy, like the hard 10 out of 10s, and it's just outside of that bracket, That's me.
Yeah.
There's but then again, I'm very biased because the way I listen to Big Finish is very anecdotal. Like long car trips when you've got a brain melting Big Finish story with you that you can just get orally lost in, like Zagreus. Only the Monstrous, that's another good one. The Middle. Yeah. My God, dig up The Middle. I won't say how it's relevant to our current predicament as a nation, but the best Sixth Doctor story I've ever seen or heard.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's fantastically monstrous, demonic. So, but
hey, big up The Middle. Big up The Middle, everyone.
Absolutely. Malcolm's there, it's great stuff. But it's just the time and place with Big Finish. I can listen to a bad one, but if I'm in the right frame of mind, I give my all to it.
Yeah, but on that point of Big Finish, or the, if you like, the expanded universe of Doctor Who being intimidating, Time Lord Victorious. The latest in a mind-bending sequence of events. I don't know if I can't remember if you've done a video or if you mentioned it on Twitter, but like,
No, I'm not so much.
What are your, like, you're not into that sort of thing?
I'm in a weird spot because, I'm a massive Tennant fan. He's not my number one, but this is me. It's got a number of my best Doctors of all time in there. And I'm a massive follower of all the multimedia, all of it. I subscribe to Titan Comics. I read every BBC book upon release. I prefer it to the TV show, the books. But I'm not much of a collector, so I'm not incentivized to... I'm also not angry. Like, I know there's been some politics to it, the whole... Again, kind of anti-consumer approach they've taken. Maybe. I don't know. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
I think it's half and half, isn't it? Because like the idea of doing a whole sequence over like different mediums, like on paper, is really, really cool. Like, I like that idea that there's all these different bits and pieces from, like, say, a Die Hard Big Finish audio play to like something as mainstream as the newest annual. But I think that's
synergy. That's business synergy.
That's good business. But I just think, and I think other YouTubers have talked about this before, but like for some people, I think the whole saga, if you like, will be way out of some people's price range. And I know, like, let's face it, there'll be YouTube series when it's all done. Like, let's look back at the whole saga. There'll be articles and stuff. But for those who want to experience it, I just think to spread it across as much as they have across all those different mediums, it's just gonna, because isn't there one thing that's like only gonna be released on vinyl?
There's one thing that's only gonna be released on a t-shirt. I'm not kidding, and I've told myself, no matter how garish or ugly this t-shirt is, I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna wear it in a video. I will be the canon man. I'll be wearing it. It's got an ood on it, and it glows in the dark. And it reveals.
Who doesn't love the ood?
It reveals information about the Ark, I guess. It's
oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Really innovative. Yeah,
is that what we're calling it? So...
I can't take it seriously. I'm broken when it comes to Who, because apart from that little smidgen of hope I had for Series 11, Series 12, which still lingers, it does still linger, it perseveres, I can't take it seriously when it fails anymore. It's win-win for me now at this point.
That sounds like a blissful spot to be in, though.
It's not.
It's just a win for you anyway.
No way. I don't know how. It's very stressful as well. Hence, broke canon.
The culmination of one fan's stress.
Absolutely. I will drive myself mental. And I've got the next 50 of them planned out, right?
I saw you put a tweet out about that, and at first I thought you were trolling, but then I noticed someone like either commented, but then you posted a picture of like a notebook with all the with all the ideas.
No, I'm actually just mental, for real.
No, I like it. It's good. I mean,
definitely
I wish I had a series where I could plan out like 50 episodes in one. And most of the time when I'm doing like a continuous series, I'm scrambling from week to week. Like one of the more popular ones I do on my channel is called the Ident Review, because I'm not just I love Doctor Who, and I'm going more in that direction because I've sort of rediscovered a love for it. But I love like TV history and nostalgia and all those quirky little sequences before TV shows with the BBC One Globe and all the other channels. I love talking about that. And I do I'm on a break in it at the minute, but trying to find like a whole batch of idents on YouTube I can convert and talk about that are interesting every week. My God, like sometimes I was doing it on the day, and it just, do you know what I mean? It's like, so I envy you that you've got it like all planned out. I think that's brilliant.
It's very optimistic that people people will, I won't burn up enough good faith by that point. But
well, I mean, if the
gimmick could last, it could last. The thing is, though, I think
as long as
is that it's not just my videos. There's no video voice. I'm this scatterbrained and tangential in real life. It makes it a nightmare to edit.
But I think people like that in the sense of, again, as I said, the way like you come across in your videos, whether there's like any scripting or even if it is just completely scatterbrained off the cuff. You do it in you manage to articulate yourself in a way where I think people become interested in points they might have been aware of but maybe hadn't thought into before. So like there was the one where you talked about like how like Patrick Troughton's Doctor was shot in the head, or like how the second Doctor was killed by scarecrows and things like that. Like I was aware of that, like that last comic strip in the 60s when the scarecrows like take him away or whatever. Like I was always aware of that, but I'd never like read into it. And just the way you...
Through the frame of voice of someone who is very... I'm hanging on for my love for it, and I'm playing up the fact that it's winding me up, when really, this is what I'm in this franchise for.
Yeah.
This is my favourite stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I spoke to, I don't know if you're aware of Josh Snares, another YouTuber on the site. I was chatting with him about, because he loves talking about the missing episodes and like 60s Doctor Who and the making of like specifically.
It's very gorgeous stuff. It's very good stuff.
And I talked to him about, obviously at that time I hadn't made the first one yet, but I was talking to him, I had plans to do the series about the ratings of Doctor Who and the history, and I said to him, but surely no one's going to be interested in this, because it is quite niche for an already niche thing.
I was worried about that. But at this one point, thing we're in so deep,
Yeah. I mean, that's what he reassured me with, though. He was like, to be honest, he said, from doing all the missing episode stuff, he said, if that's taught me anything, it's that there will be sections of the fandom who will, A, have that interest as well, but B, providing on how, you make it, it will also intrigue new people into it as well. Because, I mean, that's essentially what happened with me and Broke Canon, and many thousands of others, it seems. You talk about these points that either people aren't that aware of or people haven't delved into, and you do just that, and it makes people want to go and search them out. Like I said, I've gotten back into Big Finish because you've made me aware of all the great tales and that the first 50 are on Spotify.
It's ace. Yeah. We're never going to run out of Doctor Who. That's what's keeping me going.
Yeah. I must admit, I don't know how many of them you've read. I'm very curious, although strangely they're getting more expensive. I want to check out the new Adventures novels from the 90s.
Ooh, I've got the channel for you. POP. Arena. Papa Reyna does these gorgeous documentaries going through all of the V&As from the beginning to
nice.
up to date.
Because of course they've got this reputation, haven't they? You know, like, they're darker, they're grittier, they're edgier.
They punish me every time I try and dive into one. Just very, very unwelcoming reads.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've heard some of them are really good, and some of them are not so good, but some of them are unnecessarily sexual, should we say?
They tried some different genres, and we had to learn the hard way that Doctor Who and 80s cyberpunk probably did not go together. Or at least Sylvester McCoy was not the Doctor for that, you know?
No, yeah. And you know what? Like all the others, you know, points for trying. You know, you got to give them points for trying.
Yeah, Doctor Who's going to be every subgenre of sci-fi eventually. It's going to dip its feet into everything.
Absolutely. Just 'cause it's popped into my head, I don't know if you saw Ace Creeper, another YouTuber, put on Twitter the other day about like what stories of Doctor Who, the TV stories, or let's say even an audio drama or a book, would you want to see as like a noir style, you know, like 4:3 ratio, black and white, 1930s style noir, and that just popped into my head because, like off the top of yours, and don't worry if nothing comes to mind, but is there a particular? Oh yeah, go for it.
The Happiness Patrol, when it first came out, was described as a pink noir. And I completely agree. I think that's the one they were debating whether to show it in black and white.
They were, yeah. I think on the making of on the DVD, they're like, yeah,
Logan
we originally...
The Happiness Patrol Noir. Love it. It's got a whole nother disc just for the grayscale setting on your TV that you can do yourself. Love it. Innovation. That's a... I mean, if we're talking like old school Who, I'm waiting for the silent episode. I'm waiting for that one. I don't want Charlie Chaplin. I want Buster Keaton as a Doctor Who villain. That's a mental stupid idea, but that's my whole.
But because it's Doctor Who, it could actually work. It could actually work.
I always wonder why we don't have more historical figures as the villain. There's an obvious, easy reason, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I've thought before of having him as like a fan's dream. I don't know how it would play out, but I thought about it in Capaldi's time, and it's a shame because he would have been the perfect Doctor for it. I'd love a Doctor Who episode
face. He's all visual.
He's all visual. I mean, I'd love an episode where it's just all like there's no dialogue. Maybe not in like the silent movie style, but just, you know, full color, widescreen, all that. But there's just where it all relies on like either visuals or expressions or music. Do you know what I mean? Just Absolutely. With like barely any.
Let's have another sound creature that just eats up all of the sound out of the planet.
Yeah, but like basically Heaven Sent, but minus dialogue.
Yes, please.
Like, please. Because I mean, Heaven Sent. I mean, everyone's praised Heaven Sent, but I mean, how can you not? I mean, Capaldi. Just for the record, Capaldi's my favorite actor to play the Doctor.
I did hear this. You are a Capaldi. You're a 12 fan, right? Cap,
I'm a huge 12. I mean, he's my favorite Doctor as well.
Yes.
He was. I think for a long time before he came along, it was William Hartnell, funnily enough, and a lot of people are like, what? Hartnell's your favourite? Just because he is so wildly different to the rest, and that's what I love about how interesting he was. But after Series 8, Capaldi's first, like, it was very, he was inching close. I was like, dare I say, after one season, he's my favourite. But then, like, by the end of Series 9, especially Heaven Sent, I was like, you're my favourite Doctor. And I think he's been, so far at least, the best actor to play the role. Just the way he took it, what he did with it. Even with some of the scripts that maybe weren't the best, he stands out in them. Do you know what I mean? For me,
it's very close corners. That's a difficult comparison, but he's up there for sure with Troughton, maybe Colin Baker, and absolutely...
I mean, I've said it before, and you might have heard it on other episodes. But Series 8 is my favourite series of the modern era, purely because.
Do you know how many people have that opinion? It's a very small
to my
number.
knowledge. It is a very small number, but I think a lot of it is partly down to how I first received it at the time, but also I still really enjoy it now. But when it first aired, I was 18. I was just about to go to university,
Same.
which is obviously
Yes, I was in my first year of uni when Kill the Moon dropped, and
I was as well, so around similar age. But
Beautiful.
I don't know, as you know, then when you go to uni, it's a big time of your life. There's a lot going on in your head. There's a lot of changes and stuff. And for me at that point, Doctor Who, like, I loved Matt Smith, but it was all getting a bit too fairy tale and whimsical for me.
I heard you say this. Absolutely, the word I have for it is twee. It's very twee Series 7B. You can't have a twee companion and a twee Doctor. You can't have both.
Well, that's it. And I just think, like, there's nothing wrong with fairy tale or whimsy in Doctor Who. Not at all. There are some great examples of it. But by, like, Time of the Doctor especially, I was like... It wasn't that I was growing out of the show. I just thought, it's not what I'm after personally, just as a viewer. And then Capaldi came in, and I mean, I thought his attitude in Series 8, or his portrayal, in my view, was exactly what the show needed at that point. It needed that huge 180, and I know a lot of people didn't like it. And yeah, the Series 8-12 is kind of a dick, but do you know what? I think that's equally a side of the Doctor's character that we don't see often, and I loved that the whole first season was sort of exploring that, and him challenging himself morally, but also seeing how far he could sort of push himself in that degree. Like, I know you love Kill the Moon, and I love it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it seems we had the exact same Doctor Who experience, honestly. It really did.
Yeah, yeah.
Series 8 is my favourite.
There's someone else. Like...
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally there with you. I will bat that corner. Oh, my God. Good. Oh, it's therapeutic to hear that. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, just even stuff like In the Forest of the Night, is it the best episode ever? No, arguably not, but like that character and how he interacts with everything else is brilliant. He's both serious and powerful and funny. Like, when the kids are in the TARDIS, I'm like howling my ass off just at his face.
The Doctor's
like, he's
hanging
not even
out
saying...
with year 5s or whatever. How are you not invested? That's a beautiful idea for a story. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
The reason why Capaldi is the best is because he's cross, but also he and Moffat share the same vision of the series, which is completely that. Doctor Who is a children's character. He's a children's hero. But that doesn't mean that everyone... Moffat's done some of the most challenging stories in the show's history, which I definitely wasn't ready for at the age of watching, in terms of how much there is to grapple with even. But Capaldi's final words are just bliss to me, where he acknowledges children can hear your name, etc., etc. That's perfectly the signing off of a creator and an actor who completely 100% get it. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, that whole Twice Upon a Time, I think when I first watched it on Christmas Day, like, I'm not embarrassed to say, I think I cried near the end, because I was like...
I did, for sure. Yeah, that's one of my favourite stories ever made.
It's a beautiful send-off, and like, I remember at the time people were saying, oh, well, it like, nothing really happened, like, but I'm like, but that's kind of the point, like, do you know what I mean? There didn't need to be a big bad, or...
Moffat gets a lot of flack from people who don't like subversions, and they don't like meta-commentaries on episodes. The meta-commentaries aren't always perfect. I hated Let's Kill Hitler and A Good Man Goes to War at the time, even though I saw what they were doing, like questioning a rape revenge fantasy. The Doctor doesn't belong there. Or or we will punish the Doctor for these bizarre decisions he's making, which a casual viewer of Doctor Who would not see as a problem. Stuff like that. Lots. I just get the vibe that people don't want to see that, in the same way that maybe people weren't into The Last Jedi, moving the series onwards. I don't care what your opinion. I don't care what anyone's opinion on those movies are. I'm past Star Wars, but it's an apt comparison.
Oh, Star Wars.
Let it die. Let's move on.
It just needs a very long rest.
I hope so.
I mean, when they announced after Force Awakens, like, oh, we're going to do something Star Wars related in the cinemas every year. Like, again, I guess like Time Lord Victorious, on paper, that sounds wonderful. But in my head, I thought, no, because this is just going to... I mean, yes, for those of us who are, like, really into it or whatever, like, yeah, we'll go and see everything they put out. But for, like, the general public, that fatigue, man, that fatigue's going to set in quick, and it did.
I put myself on Disney ban for the latter half of 2019. I
really?
After Rise of Skywalker, it's just all dried up. Any fun I could be having from the discourse or these products. The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that made me regret the last, what was it, 4 years of following these films. It just made me feel like an idiot for caring. And
well, I don't know if you saw, but I mean, by the time the listeners hear this, they'll be like, "Oh, this is old news." But at the time we're recording this, I think it was either today or yesterday. There was an interview done with Daisy Ridley, who said, "Oh, you saw it?"
Oh God, I would buy that Blu-ray and never watch the movie if it had actual bonus features like back in the day. If it actually went into the production. Not even like, it's not a production issue, just the whole basis of the production was wrong.
Yeah, I mean, what did she say? It was something along the lines of, "Oh, they didn't tell me that Rey was a Palpatine like until after we'd started filming." I mean,
so
like,
they literally, she was a prop. It's like, I love Marvel movies, but the same problems go over there. The same exact problems where you've got a lineup of characters with all blank expressions on their faces because they don't know the context of the scene they're doing. They genuinely don't know what to feel because they haven't worked out what it is yet. It's a very strange period of filmmaking.
Because it's just been handed to them.
Very strange filmmaking we're entering now. I'm kind of on a Disney hiatus. Oh, I was, and then that decision was kind of made for me. But I'm in no rush in giving them more money. They do not need it, and
they do not.
It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the stress.
There's this whole thing with the new Mulan film, isn't there? Like £20 on Disney Plus, or you could just wait a few months and
you'd have to pay me £20 to watch that.
Well, I just think it's a shame because with all these live action remakes, I don't know if you've seen some of them, but when they started with Cinderella, like I watched that and I was like, okay, not brilliant, but it passable. I was like, fair enough. But then as they went on, I just started hating them more and more. Like for me, the Lion King remake is contender for like the worst idea / thing ever. But with Mulan, when they announced it and how with that first trailer, it wasn't going to be as much of a musical. It was going to be a bit darker, focused on like the more war aspects. In my head, I was like, okay, you're actually doing something different. Like I'm intrigued, but I'm not going to pay an extra £20 on top of my £6 a month. Do you know what I mean? If you're putting it on Disney Plus,
that's what happens
you should
when there's
put
no
it there
competition.
for free.
There's no competition. No one's going to tell them no because people are going to lap it up, and that's the sad truth of it. They've entered post caring. They really are there. And
because who are the big companies left now? It's Disney, Universal. Is Paramount still its own thing?
Yeah, but I think they're like a constant.
Yeah, MGM's hanging on just
like
from
United
James Bond,
Artists.
and that's about it.
Exactly. They'll all be around forever. Hopefully. God. Yeah. Wow, I said that with a lot of certainty, didn't I?
Well,
no,
if The Simpsons has predicted anything, then it will be.
And how are they doing these days? How are they doing?
Well, I mean, Disney. Do you know what? With The Simpsons, I've watched like the more recent series, because everyone's like, "Oh, after season 10, it's pretty much dead." Like, I couldn't disagree more. Sure, the early seasons are arguably better written, funnier, etc. But the modern seasons aren't bad. I wouldn't call them bad by any stretch.
I booted up a few last week, just some random ones, and I'm not going to voice opinion here or there because again, it's a struggle. Shoot. It's hard to take anything that damningly seriously, despite all this cynicism I'm clearly filled with. But I think classic Simpsons was the counterculture, and now it really is just the culture. It's just and that's why it's not for me anymore. But
it's sort of adapted some of the more, I guess, like Family Guy, South Parkish elements of, as you say, they very much adapt and reflect the culture of the time. Whereas I think I agree, it's a good way of putting it. In the 90s, The Simpsons was the opposite of that, which was great.
Of the 90s would have parodied and often did parody The Simpsons of today, and that's just that's an uncomfortable truth, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
The focus on references is just soul destroying, but I could still get some fun out of it, easy.
I think it's like people with Doctor Who. Like, if people are that precious about like the first 10 years of The Simpsons, I'm like, well, just watch the first 10 seasons for the rest of your life. Then, do you know what I mean? Yeah. The other stuff's there. If it's not for you, leave it. If Jodie's era isn't for you, just leave it.
The takeaway of all media is more power to you. That is it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's it. I'm actually just sitting. I don't know if you've seen on Twitter. I know you say you're not much of a collector, but these new Dalek toys that are like the movie Daleks, but they're technically not the movie Daleks. They're the Daleks from the Chase.
Yes.
Yeah, I love our character options of just basically giving a middle finger to whoever owns the movie rights to the Daleks. But I've got these here. Have you seen the two Cushing movies?
Yes, I have. They were childhood movies. I haven't revisited them, apart by I don't have a need to, you know?
Yeah. Oh, you think you just want them to stay as like childhood things? You don't want to
I don't really view them as
it?
I don't view them as Doctor Who. I just view them as that it fits into that nice neat bracket of 60s hyper pulp, you know? Like the Time Machine, the 1960 Time Machine. It's completely like that. They're lovely.
Yeah.
They're lovely.
Yeah, they're gorgeously shot. Peter Cushing is, fantastic actor, of course, and I think they've announced that they're going to come to BritBox soon, or maybe by the time this is out, they'll be on BritBox. So I guess if anyone's got BritBox, there you go. You've got two Dalek movies. Though I don't know if you know like much of the like history behind them, but they were going to make a third one based off the Chase, and I wish.
Battling
I wish.
Universal Monsters, Frankenstein. Are you kidding me? Yes. I love the Chase anyway. I've got a 10-minute rant segment on my channel about the Chase, so I won't.
The Chase. Do you know what the Chase? Like, it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? Like, you can't.
Again, imagine being angry at the Chase and then being like, "I like classic Who." You know, that's not. Yeah, you know what I mean by that. I hope. Yeah.
It just kicks off with, when you're kicking off with them jamming out to the Beatles and Ian doing some sort of really strange dance, and then like you're on the Mary Celeste and a Dalek falls off the ship for no discernible reason. Although I have read the target book of the Chase and it actually explains it. It's something to do with because of the Daleks' weight or something, with all of them being there, it causes the ship to rock about. And because of the sheer force of it, causes a Dalek to lose control and fall over the edge. And whilst I read it, I was like, oh, so that's why that Dalek in the Chase seemingly just falls off.
They didn't need to explain that. Did they explain why there's two Peter Purvises?
There might be a line at the end where... Oh, is there a line? There might be a line where one of them says, oh, you look... This
novel sounds like a cannon plaster. That's what I call it.
Don't hold me to that. No, is that new series coming, everyone? Cannon plasters.
that sounds like very much. Here's a story we made not because of we've got an artistic vision. We just want to cover up some continuity things that we like. Yeah. Otherwise, Big Finish. We like stories.
Yeah. But I was waiting for that.
They do it very well. They do it very well. They repair relationships and missing parts of characterization. So I'm very much there for if they want to actually sit down and have a chat about Adric, you know, because that's
Adric.
But that's not there in the original. So I'm welcome to Six and Perry being a lovely TARDIS team. They are.
Yeah.
In the audio, that not one bad story. If you want to get Big Finish, dig out anything with Perry and Six in it. Trust me.
There you go, recommendations. But I do agree. With the Chase, I've just remembered in the novelization, the Morton Dill thing. Like, I'm pretty sure at the end he gets taken away to like a mental asylum.
Oh, no.
Because he's either come out of one.
I'm writing down notes. I'm writing down notes for Broke Canon.
Honestly, I highly go and read the Chase novelization if you can, because it's one of those, like we talked about earlier. It just adds so much more to what we already have. And if there's any story that didn't necessarily ask for more, but you kind of welcome what they give you, it's definitely the Chase.
I would have taken 10 more episodes of the Chase. I really would have.
Yeah, if you just want a straight good book, I'm currently halfway through the first part of the Daleks Master Plan book, and I am loving it.
Oh, great.
It's so well written. And I've heard bits of the audio, of the audio we have of the actual story, so I know bits and pieces. But the way the novel's written, it actually feels like this huge, massive space epic, which I guess it was at the time. But even as a book, if you want just like a good straight read, definitely recommend those. But the Target books are odd because some of them are really weirdly overpriced. Like, do you know about the misconception behind the Wheel in Space book?
Yes, in passing. But
so it's
again,
something
not a collector, so it would never.
Oh no, of course,
it would never approach me.
Well, there's something to do. Like, it's the most expensive one, arguably, of like the classic range, not including the 90s stuff, and it goes for between like 30 to 60 quid. And I was like, oh, why the Wheel in Space? Surely. And well, there were rumors that there's articles proposing that at the time there was like a fire at a warehouse, so there was less copies produced. But there's actually a great PDF anyone can download for free. I'll put a link in, called Based on the BBC television serial, where a guy has gone through all the novelizations, documented when they came out, how many copies were printed roughly, or like print runs. And they actually say that's a misconception, that The Wheel in Space had just as many printings as other stories at the time. So I just think that's an example of fandom overinflating things just because it's based off a rumor.
Yeah. We're all Beanie Babies. We're onto Beanie Babies, really. And the sooner we admit that to ourselves, the more
the better species
we can
be.
Finally get our Tom Baker Blu-ray. I haven't got a single one. Have not got a single one.
Your wallet will be thanking you, mate. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
So.
You say that. I've got Series 8 on Blu-ray coming in the mail.
Daddy
Capaldi gets the Blu-ray treatment, and him alone.
Yeah, he does.
No one else.
Is it the standard version, or is it that fancy BBC shop version when there was a BBC shop with like the slipcover and all that stuff?
I'm sweating because, again, I don't know these things.
I mean, literally, the only difference is a slipcover. That's it. There's no additional
very, very
features
cheap.
or discs.
All I can tell you is that it was exceedingly cheap, and that's perfect.
See, I'm waiting. I've started down the slippery slope of, they're doing the modern series on Steelbook.
Oh yeah, I heard. No way. That's a loser's game, my friend. You're not going to win that.
No,
you're not going to win.
You're absolutely right. But they've still got Series 7 and 8 to do, and I'm like, Series 8 Steelbook. Like, if you announce that, I'm a pre-order it.
Fandom is a blood sport. I said it. You know what? I just said it. Yeah. It's come to me.
You've pretty much said what we're all thinking. Let's face it. It is a blood
I'm still
sport.
thinking about Dalek Master Plan as a. Imagine that's a Peter Cushing movie. Dalek Master Plan.
Well, if they'd have got that would have been like a 3-hour intermission in the middle, like
a Ben Hur style epic. Yes.
I mean, a lot of people say that now. It's like, even when they listen to like the audio that survives, like Dalek's Master Plan, even the TV version feels like a movie, because it goes on for so long and there's all these locations and
it kind of feels like an era, because there's so many stories that happen in that gap as well. They've crammed so many Sahara Kingdom stories.
Oh yes, they have.
It's a whole era of the First Doctor there now, and I love stories that last for a long time. When the Doctor has to camp down and stays there for months? Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Absolutely. Well, it's like in season 7 with John Pertwee. Everyone's like, "Oh, they're all 7 episodes. It's too long." I love those.
They are too clinical for me a lot of the time. I tried.
Do you think so? Yeah.
I tried sitting down with Mind of Evil, and that climax is amazing. It's kind of the apex of the whole unit stuff, and like their second outing or whatever. But the rest of it is it's too Quatermass and too dry sometimes.
Yeah, I think, ironically, I think that's what I like about it, because I think I remember in your third Doctor retrospective, you were like, a lot of Series 7, or like, particularly the Ambassadors of Death, is quite like very much a lot of padding and a lot of this, that, and the other. And I agree, there is a lot of padding, but there's just something about it. Anytime I whack it on, I am, I'll be like, I'll have this on in the background whilst I edit. But I'll always end up watching it and giving it my full attention. I don't know why. There's just something about...
mesmerising. It's a mesmerising one.
Yeah.
But,
there's something about that first year. That first John Pertwee year. It's the closest, I'd argue, who got to being like just a fully adult drama.
Oh yeah. It decided we want to be a cult. We want to be a cult TV series now. And it's like, wow, okay. Sure. Yeah. And that's probably why it's still here. Who knows?
Yeah. Quite. But... No, well, I'm aware we're over an hour, so I'll probably... I know.
That's so sad.
Don't worry, I know, man, but don't worry. I've really enjoyed having you on. Thanks again for coming, and be sure, like, I want to have you back on in the future. We can discuss more canon-based things or broken canon-based things or all that sort of stuff. But, I mean, you've been a fantastic guest, and again, guys, if you haven't checked out Sam's channel, just search Davies on YouTube, Davis. Go and watch Broke Canon. Go and watch all his...
There's a massive back catalog. There's a 9-year back catalogue.
Well, there you go. If you dig deep enough, you'll find. Yeah.
Oh, but okay. Don't just go for the Doctor Who stuff. Yeah. Like, I rank the Doctors by length. Take that where you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I can. The Muppets, who would I defeat in a 1v1 street fight? Yeah, all right. But there's some good stuff deep down. All right.
Absolutely. Check out all that stuff, and also my low-key favourite video on your channel, and I'm only going to say the title, is How Tory is Each Doctor. That's my favourite video on the channel.
It's actually
I won't go into it anymore
canon.
than that.
That's all canon. Canonically correct.
Yep, absolutely. All canon. All canon. But no, Sam, thank you so much for coming on to AMTV Radio today. Is there, before you go, would you like to shout out any of your projects or social media stuff, anything like that, where people can find you?
There's nothing in particular. It's just that I've got so many old videos backed up that I always would like people to go and check them out. Broke Canon came from a bunch of stuff. It came from half my history of trolling my viewership, which I've always done, and partly I used to do a fan theory series, Fan Theory 101, same exact structure but for all media. You go check them out. They're looking a bit lonely right now. And there's a Ko-fi page as well. It's like Patreon, but it's pay what you like, and it's sadly required at this point in time. But,
sadly for a lot of us, isn't it?
Pull
with everything.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. You've got to promote what you've got to promote. No shame in that whatsoever. But
it's pay what you like. Yeah, no.
That's it. Absolutely. Well, all of those, I'll make sure all of those links are in the description. And for those watching on YouTube, there'll be stuff on screen. For those on Spotify, you know what to do. Head over to YouTube.
Go there.
Go and check out. Go there. Go and check out all those videos. Yeah.
Go and learn about Nazi sympathizers. It'll be great.
Absolutely. All important stuff in the world today. But Sam, it's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best, mate, with your future endeavours.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love being engaged like this. It's so much funner. So much more fun.
No, it is, isn't it? And we will do it again. But until the next one, for those of you listening, thank you for joining.
Peace.
And I'll catch you next time on AMTV Radio.
Woo!
A massive thank you to our producer and director patrons for your support towards us here at AMTV. You just help keep us going, and that's massively appreciated. And that does bring us to the end of another evening here on AMTV. We hope you enjoyed the programme, and we hope to see you next time. Good night.